Hi everyone. In this video, I will talk about variable naming and syntax. So, variable naming is actually one of the two hardest thing in computer science. And when people look at your code, they can know that you are no coding or not by just looking to your variable name and to the syntax, the way you present your code in your file. So there are some rules. This could be changed with different programming languages. So in R, for example, one of the rules suggested by Hartley Wickman, I put a link here, that when you have a variable, you should have the name with all lowercase. And if the variable consists of more than two words, we can use the underscore to separate between words. And to ensure that other people, when they are reading your script, they can understand what does the variable mean, you should have the concise and meaningful name, and should also avoid using existing function name as your variable name. And for syntax, I also rules, for example, should put on around infix operator spaces, and after comma also have space, and also before left parenthesis except in the function call, and so on, new line before and after the curly braces, and try to restrict your line length to 80 characters to ensure the readability of your code. If your code is too long, then it's very difficult to read. So now it's difficult to imagine all of this. Let's open our studio and have some example of good and bad variable names as well as good and bad syntax. Okay, and here is my R Studio user interface. Let's create an R script file. And the first thing is variable name. For example, good practice and bad practice. So for example, I have a variable with the name temperature. Yes, instead of temperature here, capital the first word. We should have follow a consistent rule. For example, all are in lowercase. In here, the capital T, the T capitalized, and in R, R is a case sensitive language. So temperature with small t's are not the same as temperature with capital T. They are two different variables. And we use underscore to separate words. For example, I have the daily temperature, and the bad one is daily temperature. So in here, this tag is quite difficult to read, especially when it has more than two words. So if we use the underscore here, we increase the readability of our text. And I should have the name, shouldn't have the name, for example, Tam in here. That this name is not precise and meaningful for temperature, because if I use temp here for temperature, people can understand it in different way. For example, they can understand this is a temporal variable or something else. But if I say it temperature here, is it clear that this is a temperature variable? And if I have the mean temperature, so I should have the name like this instead of mean in here, because in R, mean is a function. This is the function name, not a variable name. And for syntax, let's create another line, command line here for syntax. This is a good practice. Let's say good, and this is, let's say, bad. So one of the first thing is that when you have the command line, you can put this tag behind the command line to increase the readability of your text. For example, here I do like this. You can see that my code has two sections. One, I'm talking about variable name, and the other thing I'm talking about syntax. Okay, and you should have spaces around infix operator. For example, I have 2 plus 3 instead of 2 plus 3. So in R, it still works. There's nothing wrong, but here the readability is very poor. It's difficult, yeah. So we should have own space around this. This is not good. Also, this is not good. And for example, uh, 2 minus 3 also. Bad practice is 2 minus 3. And space after the comma never before. For example, I have to calculate the sum of 1, 2, 3, comma, should have space here, and I remove true. So in here is good because I have space after the comma and I have space around infix operator. Bad, for example, sum C 1, 2, 3, and I remove yes. And I should have space before the left parenthesis except a function call. So this is the case. This is the function call. Sum is a function. So I shouldn't have space in here. This is a bad practice. For example, for I in 1, 2, 3, print I. So here I should have space before the left parenthesis. Bad practice is here. Yeah, we don't have space here. And a new line before and after the curly braces. Here, after the curly braces, I start a new line, and bad practice would be we put directly like this. In some exceptional case, if your for loop just have one line in here, you can put directly in here. It's not wrong, but I would suggest one way putting new line after the curly brace. For example, this is also not a good practice. And your maximum line length should be 80 character. For example, I have 1 plus 2 here. This is the line that show the limit of 80 characters. Your code still work if it exceed this. For example, here 1, 2, 3 plus 4 plus 5. So just copy this. So here I have more than 80 character length. Your code still work. But if your code exceed 80 character length, you can enter a new line here. And no, not and, you can jump into the new line. For example, I have x equal to this. It should work. Here should break into a new line. Yeah. But in this case, it turned out look really nice. Yeah. In any case, if your code exceed 80 line, you can split into the new line here, or you can break your code into different functions. Yeah. And try to restrict within 80 line. It still work if your code has more than 80 line. Yeah. So in here, for example, I can say that x equal to this one and y, for example, equal to this one. Yeah, I can break my code into smaller bits of code. Z x plus y. So this will look cleaner, but yeah. So I think this is all. So thanks for watching. Let's go to the next video.